That. In today's consumer news now, the importance of having a preset game plan for when life's unexpected events happen. From stolen credit cards, maybe a devastating fire, or losing a spouse, not having a plan can really hurt you emotionally as well as financially. So here with some simple steps you can take to be prepared for some of these events is money and business expert Derrick Kinney. Derrick, thanks so much for being with us once again today to talk about the things that no one really wants to have to think about, but these are things in life that we do have to be prepared for. Is Derrick with us?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, there he is. I'm sorry, I didn't see both of us on screen together, so I got thrown there for a second, Derrick. We waited to reveal you. So thanks for being with us here today. Again, these are things that, a lot of people don't think about until maybe it happens, and then it's a real nightmare. Let's start with credit cards, because we've heard about this so many times. What do you do if your credit card is stolen or somebody else gets a hold of it in one way or another? What should you do in a case like that?
Well, let me take it one step back, that you want to make sure you're prepared that if it were to get stolen, you know the numbers and the phone number to call to report it. So one of the easy ways to do this is either make a copy of the credit cards or keep it in a confidential area on your phone or in a safe. The key is you want to be prepared that if you lose it, you know who to call and when to call them right away to minimize any potential damage. That's step number one.
Okay, so you want to get ahead of that for sure, because then it just gets worse and worse if you are behind on something like that and you're trying to play catch up. Let's talk about what to do financially anyway, as far as preparing yourself goes. If your spouse were to unexpectedly pass away, should you be taking steps? Should you be taking steps, as a couple and kind of thinking through these things? Because, Derrick, none of us knows when it's going to be our time.
Well, as someone famously said, what we do know is that death and taxes are certain to occur to all of us, and we want to be prepared. So again, let's take a step back. You want to have this critical conversation with your spouse or the one that you love the most and talk about, hey, God forbid if something happened to you, what would our life look like after that? Or what do you want to have happen at your death? And these are things that you don't always want to talk about, but it's important for the person's legacy, and that may guide you to determine possibly we need to purchase more life insurance, or possibly we need to update our will and specify clearly if you want this piece of furniture to go to this relative or that relative. Sometimes the will doesn't cover that, but a separate document telling people exactly what your wishes are can really cause a lot of heartache to go away and can stop burning bridges from family members if you were to pass away.
Yeah, that can get really nasty too. And we talked about that. I did this whole death checklist for Right on the Money. And the things that you don't even think about, and we had this expert basically saying, like every fork, every picture, imagine dividing that by 3 if there is no one, giving instruction ahead of time as to where those things go, and you have 3 kids and everybody's fighting over the same things. You just don't want to leave behind, that kind of a situation if you were to go unexpectedly or even expectedly. So let's talk about possible house fire, because this happens every day. We see it on the news. Day after day here. What do you do to protect yourself financially from a possible house fire? Derrick, I knew a friend of mine years ago who went through this, and they were well prepared for a lot of things, and this just devastated them.
Well, and it's so out of the ordinary when this happens, but this happens to a neighbor of ours, and we learned from some things they didn't do, and one would be check your insurance to make sure that in the case of a fire, you have what's called replacement value based on the current economic price to rebuild your house. But second of all, and this is one that I think can help a lot of our viewers, it's going to take some time, but video, open up every cabinet and every room around your house and take a video of what you own, because in the case of a fire, it is on you to justify what you owned. And as my neighbor talked about, trying to remember room by room and cabinet by cabinet was such an arduous process. Take that video, save it to the cloud, That way, if something happens, you're protected there, and check the insurance policy to make sure you're covered.
That is such a great point, too, and especially when you think about the cost to rebuild and how that's gone up over the years. You just want to make sure that you're not underinsured and that, yes, you know of everything that's in that house. I actually did another Right on the Money piece on that several years back, and I hadn't known that before I did that piece, and so I took my own advice and went through the house doing exactly what you just said, Derrick, including, even showing the serial numbers on some things like the big TV and stuff like that, just so it's really clear what was in that house, so that you don't have to fight it out so much with an insurance company after the fact because you've got everything documented there. Really makes life a lot easier if something terrible happens. Let's finish out with computers here because we need them. Many people have several of these in the house, and our whole lives are stored on those computers. So what do you do to protect yourself in that realm?
What you want to do is have a file that says, in the case of emergency, go to this file. So one of the worst situations would be if you were to pass away and no one knows your password in your family. It just adds insult to injury. So you want to keep that list short, but have it be in a safe place, but also begin to save things to the cloud where people have access to it, where, God forbid, if your computer burned in a fire, all of that information doesn't burn right along with it. So the key is some simple steps, not things we always want to talk about, but as hard as people work for their money, I want to make sure that they're protected if the uncertain does happen to them.
Yeah, you'll never realize how much is stored on those computers until you lose one of them in some kind of catastrophe like that. Derrick Kinney with Good Money Framework, he is the creator of that, and we can't thank you enough for the advice for these things that we just don't typically think about on a regular Tuesday, Derrick.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks as always. All right.